silencing the noise, the lies of media, Government of Canada, many provinces and territories, reproducing, regurgitating absolute lies. Canadians, your economy did not expand 2.6%. It's a lie. Your GDP contracted a massive quarterly, second quarter, 25%. And the government claims after dropping that massive sweeping destruction of so many industries, jobs gone, companies moving, the government says, oh, look, we've expanded on the new base marker. Look at our wonderful economy grew by 2.6%. That's a lie. We've imported more than ever. More than ever. Not securing any real meaningful exports. None whatsoever. Mark Carney processes bailouts, handouts, borrowing massive against Canadians with no budget. Zero budget. He has a pen. He is the Bank of Canada governor. He is the Prime Minister. He runs the Senate. He absolutely controls the entire House and judiciary. All media lies for Prime Minister Carney. It's been this way in Canada all along. But now we're seeing a tyrannical, supersized evil. We've left the United States behind. We've moved on to financial systems out of London. All of that money, all of that massive debt loading, your newly announced budget, a record-setting deficit never seen before in Canadian history. Again, you go back to 1981, and it's everything every prime minister borrowed from 1867 till 1981 in one annual budget. Meaning the deficit today is equal to all the accumulated debt from 1867 to 1981. And they're trying to tell you, look, the economy expanded. Look at finance and look at imports. So Canadians are importing more than ever, largely from China, trying to replace USA. And in exports, you had a modest 0.7% increase after a devastating 25% loss. You're not running on fumes, as Desjardins will tell you, or Bank of Montreal, or Bank of CIBC, and all the chartered banks. Now, there's only 3 speaking right now. But folks, you're being bamboozled, you're being lied to, you're being told it's okay to borrow on a daily basis to run the economy of Canada without any export strength, none whatsoever. That's absolutely a band-aid on a massive gash, an axe wound to the side of the body where your internals are hanging out and people are trying to push it back in and put band-aids on it and say, see, everything's good. Look, he can walk or she can walk. That's Canada right now. Anyone telling you anything else is a liar. I know many Canadians know. You've watched mass amounts of businesses close. You've seen sectors shut down. I think one of the most critical areas is Ontario and Quebec. They've seen it the most. Skyrocketing unemployment. Now, places like Alberta have been in that situation now for going on 5 to 7 years now. Nobody cared. Now it's affecting the rest of the country. And when a government tells you these record-setting unemployment rates that continually to rise are a good thing, and that don't worry, we're just going to keep debt loading all the people of today, the children of tomorrow, those yet to come, and we're going to hand that over to them as their legacy, you're on a marching path to absolute second world, third world status. It's coming. We're going to wake up. And I would say within less than 2 years, we're going to wake up officially second world status. Those who own their homes today, who feel comfortable in this system, well, there won't be anybody to afford to buy those homes except for elites who will wish to tear them down to make high rises and unit blocks to house all the mass immigrants and their whopping uncontrolled mass immigration and all of the people today. Because if your children aren't secured and own their home, there's no future for them. They'll never see the life that a lot of us did or our parents and grandparents saw. That Canada is over. It's been over for a long time. People aren't ready to face reality. I know the generation of today sees that reality. Generally speaking, anybody under the age of 35, if not into a home and well on their way, meaning they've gone through a couple mortgage cycles, renewal periods. I know Americans don't know what I'm talking about. Canada has an entirely different financial system of slavery. It's the opposite of America. It allows the wealthy and elite to renegotiate loan deals every 1, 3, or 5 year periods. That's generally the best you'll get in Canada. Interest rates fluctuate anytime the government wishes by the strike of the Prime Minister's pen. And they all dance and they all jump to that tune. The economic markers they're using this quarter to lock in interest rates are false. They're based on massive subsidization and debt loading against the people without any major growth in exports. Now, there's been some growth, but for everything we've lost with the United States, we've replaced with China at about 1/20th so far. Now, the province of Alberta has announced another LNG expansion, as well as, which I'm going to post after this video, that they're ready to expand Trans Mountain Pipeline. You see, they want all natural gas drained out of Alberta well before 2050, even though it's on the Agenda 2050. But now Danielle Smith and Mark Carney signed those two documents together, province and federal, meaning Danielle Smith signed over her sovereignty of the resources to the Prime Minister in an attempt to sell all those resources to China. When I say all, I mean absolutely all those resources. Alberta will be out of natural gas long before 2050. The question now is how fast, with UCP's mandate now, which they just did at their AGM yesterday, the Agenda 2050 transformation and transition to China, they're going to attempt to match the exports that they do to USA with China in the Northern Gateway Pipeline that is now entirely and absolutely for China. This means that at those levels, anyone can do the math, Alberta will be out of oil, absolutely, by 2050. Before 2050, all natural gas in Alberta will be drained. Alberta will have to purchase the expanded BC Hydro or wind or oil like Atlantic Canada. And if you ever want to talk to an Atlantic Canadian about what life is like living that way with heating oils, you should reach out and ask them. Talk about sovereignty. And for the natural gas out of New Brunswick, that will be gone too. They're going to make sure it's all gone. That is Agenda 2050. Using and consuming all fossil fuels in Canada before 2050 on the world stage. It's a plan in conjunction with China to take out the United States of America, who actually was the one who invested, funded, and put the most money into developing Alberta's resource extraction system and upgrading. That was largely done by USA investment ultimately. And we've watched a transition to the Crown now, and they now want to double what they've extracted, shared with us in the United States, to basically decommission the United States military. It's their way of grounding the United States, completing what Canada was designed to do, the Great Wall of Canada against the United States, to destroy and limit the United States of America. They will now attempt to transition to China to make China more powerful than the United States. It's very important all Canadians understand something. While we think our resources are for us, the Canadians, we read the Constitution, we see, yep, there it is, provincial power, Section 92, resources. They're not for you, the subjects. If you read your Provincial Executive Powers Act, you find out just what you are and what your elected and appointed crown are in your province. They own the resources. Whomever you elect, they run and control that for the betterment of the federal and provincial crown. This is the same for the territories. The politicians own and control everything. That's how they get elected to office, from all the wealthy elites who own properties in Canada and have rights to all those resources with literally no real royalties turned over to the people of Canada. We're always focusing on the mass wealth from oil and gas. Those royalties paid are largely from the American system, what Americans do in America. And in fact, the rates are higher. And not just for oil and gas, it's all resources. And they share those in 100% free trade so that every single state that's involved in the process, transportation to get it to market, receives a share of that. Their input, their share. It's called 100% free trade. And they can't restrict each other. Canada does this, divides each other out, because it's all about how much wealth goes in to the politicians, not you, the people. To prove this fact, any one of you can pick up your phones, your devices, get on your laptops, your computer, PC, and you can go search for yourself. Go look at USA charging us for the differential, meaning they're charging us for taking the oil into their country, processing it, shipping it, supplying the military to make sure Alberta and Canada products get out overseas all over the world. USA supplies that. It's called value supply chain. The military protect it, and really they're not properly compensated for that. Not at all. Whereas Americans are on the hook to pay for that, Canadians are not. The Crown gets away with stealing a lot, and they don't compensate the United States for it. So now Danielle Smith and a lot of Alberta politicians, along with the federal, will tell you USA's the bad guy, you're getting ripped off for your resources, but Canada doesn't supply any military or value in supply chains. In fact, they break the law. They're breaking the law internationally right now today under International Maritime Organization laws passed by the Allies of World War II. Now, currently, Canada, who's not to take their old, dilapidated, underdeveloped, not to scale that matches environmental standards for the ocean. USA does. In fact, lots of countries around the world do. Do you think any of the OPEC countries breach that law? The answer is no. They're all deep ports. They're all deep capacity. They're all running large LCMs. These are mega million barrel capacity tankers with low sulfur emissions. That is not the same for Canada and their Aframax. They've been doing this a very long time. The law changed. Countries were given all kinds of notice, but guess what your crown doesn't do? Follow international law. They're the largest polluters in the world on transportation. In fact, they don't protect any of the value and supply chains. So with China's doing that. So it goes out to the coast, Trans Mountain Pipeline, gets loaded in dilapidated old Aframax freighters owned by a former Canadian Prime Minister, Paul Martin, Liberal Party of Canada, all built in China and then brought here. Now they go out from the west coast right to Beijing, and then they get loaded and go through the Yangtze River out to everybody. They've been stockpiling it. So far since January, Alberta's responsible for 32 million barrels of China's stockpiled oil. And now they're ready to expand. They want to increase Trans Mountain's capacity. It's breaking news as of yesterday. Alberta wants to continue and then even go further with the new pipeline, Deep Port, where China's going to show up with big LCMs. And you know what's going to happen? Millions of barrels a day, matching the United States. And Alberta, you were good for about 90 years. That's going to reduce you to less than 40 years. With Trans Mountain and more expansions to China and the Asian partners, 3 billion customers, you're looking at completing everything by now officially 2048. And that also means Alberta will not have any more oil, not the oil sands, not conventional, sweet. They're not going to have any of that anymore. It's going to be gone. And then that's the hope that the American military will no longer be able to mobilize and be out there in the world today as they are. You will shut down aircraft carriers. You will shut down all of their jets, most of them, a good third of the military air force. Can you imagine that world? And China will have it all stockpiled to assemble a massive military to overtake the United States of America. So that globally, if we can't have crown, not me, this is our politicians, if we can't be crown and we can't have slave subjects, well, we'll still have centralized government control under communism and will never be held account. And we can destroy our southern neighbor America and turn them into subjects or worse, communists too. They've already got somewhat of a stronghold within the ranks of the Democrat Party. I'd say about 17%. Whereas Canada, with Liberal, NDP, Conservative, they're well over 70% ready to go. Constitutional monarchies have always been the pre-communist model. They're commune, not individual, they're commune. Commune, communist. It's just a slow step in one direction to the far left. And we're already, our needle has moved from just before the center, always tipping this way. We just took a giant step the other way. Your conservatives who claim to be over the line, which really aren't, they're over here. Here's center, and here's where conservatives are. Liberals here, NDP there, Green here, and then there's communism. You can't even see it because I'm out of the screen. But we're taking that giant step outside of the screen onto the far left. It's being done by conservatives, mostly out west. All of that was Stephen Harper that rages and reigns supreme. The idea of mass immigration targeting key Chinese and Southeast Asian countries is no accident. There's a reason why we go to India, another Commonwealth country with a vast supply of people. China, communism, vast supply of people. They're both number one and two for a reason. All Indians born in India are in a caste system, a pyramid scheme, almost no different than Canada. In fact, those people exist mostly in a second to third world state. Most people don't even have shoes. The Indians you meet that come to Canada are all those out of their wealthy class. That's who makes it here from India. You don't even want to know what the third class is in India. You'll never meet them because they can't even afford shoes. They live in the streets. They're diseased. They're impoverished. That's a large chunk of India. We're taking their wealthy elites, their established class that comes here, who's well-groomed and's in love with class structure in the first class. They quickly and easily integrate into the Canadian system. They were born into it too. They love it. And they're comfortable with creating even subpar third class. That's why the Canadian government targets that vast pool of people, the largest in the world, because they accept what the government of Canada does. Just go to India, you'll find out this truth. Along the way with China, perfect. Biggest economy next to the United States, communist, no problem. People will easily groom into communism. From crown commune to communism, it's not a big stretch. It's better for them to go that way, maintain centralized control, get away with all their money and not be held to account, than ever stepping the minorest tiptoe towards the United States. For them, that would mean their ruin. They would lose all of their financial wealth accumulation by stealing from all of you. They could be in prison. They could be charged for high crimes, losing their life, everything they have, their family's wealth taken away, seized in the American model. Some people may be even charged for human crimes, crimes against humanity. What do you think would happen to them then? Have you ever seen Nuremberg? That's a monarchy addressed. Called it a Reich Republic. But it was a monarchy. Do not kid yourself. A republic designed entirely in a monarchical system. Just like Canada. That was what Hitler used. He even traveled here, did that, or at least had envoys learning it long before he took power. Even with Imperial Japan, we have all those records too. They were learning. They didn't just become fascist. They had to learn what is the most successful model. How can we get away with this and all of a sudden just come out full scale? Well, they had to go to Canada. They had to study. You can see the records, Imperial Japan, convoys to British Columbia, where they learned it all. You can look at records of what Hitler's envoys did before he really got into major powers. But soon you see the Enabling Act, like the Indian Act, everything that they learned about Canada before it was on that scale. They had sent envoys to learn. That's the truth. They didn't go to USA. They went to Canada because they had to study. How do they get away with it? How do they institutionalize everybody? Propaganda, programming, controlling the media, setting classes, finding somebody you can pick on, somebody to be your savage. Once you have a savage class that everybody can look down on, you can get them in the pyramid scheme. They can accept their lower standard, their assigned equity of the person, and then they will pick on that savage class. Because it can always be worse, right? You're not as bad as that non-human being savage class person. So, folks, we're in a bad way in Canada. We're going in a terrible, terrible direction. And people are not waking up, not the mass majority, but they're trickling in, more and more waking up. Do right by your fellow man. It's hard. It's hard being the first. And I'm not Jesus. I'm just saying in the example of that Christianity after Jesus Christ, there was that first 100 years of those who had to go out there and literally sacrifice themselves, spreading that message, getting more and more for it to grow. And it's sad no one ever likes to talk about the years after Jesus and all of those who had to get that message out there. And God bless them for doing it, for changing that mentality of the socialist and fascist system that infects the world still today, is absolutely everything that's Canada, not Christian, the opposite of America, that's growing just fine on its own, doesn't need any of this evil. It just does right by their fellow Americans, and Canadians are taught to hate that. Stay in your class, shut up, pay your exorbitant taxes. Who cares how hard it is to live? Who cares what the prices are? Who cares about everybody else? Especially who cares about your children and grandchildren to come? Think about that. Talk about evil, institutionalizing absolute self-grandizement in a community of evil. It's narcissism, runaway narcissism. And those at the top are absolutely psychopaths, diseased mind individuals who believe they deserve what they have and they've stolen. They deserve to lie to all of you because you don't matter. They're the superior, you're the inferior. That's how they look at it. And you're seeing this roll out in front of you. Lots of friends of mine in the Alberta AGM. Yes, the media reports booing at her announcement of the pipeline and all that, but it was just a few voices, small bits of the crowd. Largely, the mass majority is in love with the idea. Think about that. I know lots of Europeans who are from that former Soviet Union system and are just, what did I walk into in Canada? And I had those messages from people. They're just shocked. And we've had a good trickle. For those who don't know, in Canada, the 51st state page, we've literally over this week had 272 new Quebecois rush into our page. I guess we'll see how the weeks go, but we're getting a lot of Quebecois, increase from Ontario, obviously, as unemployment rates showcase where we're going and what to expect. And a lot of Quebecois really see this, that the language isn't going to be saved. English is going to be where Quebec is today. In just a few short years, I don't even think 2 decades. I don't even think 2 decades and English is going to be a minority language where they're going to say, like Quebec, sorry, we're changing all the signs to another language. And it's going to be a foreign language from Southeast Asia or China or within that sphere of influence. You just wait and see. That's my video, folks. Credible, real, verifiable, undeniable. And your government will spin with their paid media everything to lie to you as they rape, pillage, plunder, and rob you and your children forevermore. We have not replaced the United States. And as this time goes on, USA is going to keep scaling back more and more and more. The government's going to say, it's okay, we're going to keep borrowing and borrowing like Nazi Germany did. Oh, and look at all the wonderful things we're doing. And then one day they got to announce, we're belly up. Sayonara, see you later. You're finished. Welcome to your new standard. Country went belly up. You're now a third world Venezuela. Alberta is well on its way, most infused with communism. People who don't know this, just drive around any small town, village, hamlet, you name it in Alberta, and you're going to find Chinese CCTV cameras everywhere. Everywhere. They're not removed. 8,500 of them in the province of Alberta. I can't drive anywhere. Every time I go home, no matter where I go, generally, it's at the 90-some percentile. That's what you find in every community. And people still don't get it. And it's shocking that if other Canadians would see what Alberta is today, maybe it would go, hey, how Albertans didn't feel and see the sale of Penhold, the central military base of Alberta for Canadian Armed Forces to China. I don't know what to tell you. How the fact China owns 1/3 of the oil sands, I don't know what to tell you. And that was done a long time ago. So was Penhold. And they haven't really invested much more since. It's now Canada investing everything Canadians have, and province by province at the provincial level, everything the provincial peoples have in those regions, into nationalizing everything for expansion to China. Centralized primary sector GDP. Scary, scary stuff. We went up 0.7%. That's all we truly did in exports, which means after a 25% fall, that's garbage. And that's when the people of Canada borrow astronomical sums and commit to nationalizing all of their primary sector expansions. And that's all you could grow in one quarter. What's it going to be every quarter? How much does it cost for pointage of real export GDP, real primary sector GDP? If you need to spend that kind of money, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, a low-level financial understanding person to understand that you're on a trajectory to be bankrupt in just a few short years. Your standard of living is going to be gone on a massive scale. People who own homes today, even if they're half paid off, all of a sudden tomorrow the bank's going to come along in another couple of years and say, sorry, you're not worth it. And that property is going to go to somebody who's got more money than you because your money isn't worth what it once was. Your job isn't worth what it once was. We can't let you have this property. The Crown ultimately owns your property. Get out. We're not renewing you. You're gone. We're going to get somebody who can, a wealthy elite from the first class, and then they'll rent it out to you. You will own nothing, and you will learn to be happy. Scary. That's my video, folks. Share, share, share. Get it out there. Reach as many as you can. It's undeniable. In your face. Bye now. God bless.